Alright. Um, Basically, I want to get my book out there. Just want my story heard. I made it about a year ago, a little over a year ago. It's called Empty by Eric Ruggles. This will probably be the cover on my second book, which I am working on right now. But in order to bring you that book and that story, I'm going to do episodes with little about 10-minute excerpts of my book. We start from the beginning, go to the end. I'm going to do this every Thursday around 8:30. I'm doing it on Facebook Live now. Probably be trying to do it on YouTube Live as well as TikTok Live later on. This is just testing it out though. I'm going to read the first about 10-11 pages, and then I'm going to kind of reiterate some of the things that I was thinking at that time that I wrote that, because that way it'll give you a little bit better detail. So I'm going to go ahead and get started. This is what the book cover looks like on Amazon.com. You can get a copy on Amazon.com if you want to help support me. But the first episode is called The Secret Within. So season 1, I'm hoping to have 2 seasons of this. Season 1, episode 1, The Secret Within, Empty by Eric Ruggles. And I'm going to do a little bit of the opening scene. Alright? So, Empty by Eric Ruggles. Acknowledgements. Thank you to my wife, Kimberly Ruggles, for always letting me know how long it took to write this story. Thank you to Mrs. Michaela Armona for my first edit of the story. And thank you to my Uncle Jim for the final edit of this story. Have you ever felt different, like you did not belong to any group? This is what Rayden Miller felt like every day. He was an 18-year-old senior in high school, and he knew there was something different about him. It wasn't clear to him yet, but it soon will be. Rayden lived in a small town in North Carolina. He went to a school called Maple Valley High. He was not involved in any sports or any clubs or any extracurricular activities, but he was very athletic because of his past involvement in sports, and he currently continued to work out on his own. Rayden usually stuck to just himself because that is who he trusted and who he believed in. Alright? Rayden was an only child, and he came from a split home. His father left him and his mother when he was 15 years old. He lived with the mother in North Carolina, and his relationship with her was a decent one. Sometimes they talked, and sometimes they didn't, but he knew if he needed her, she was there. He just would not divulge his deep personal life to her. The only person he hung out with was Rachel. It was a girl who went to his school at Maple Valley High School. Rachel had a similar background, a single parent, and she was an outcast at her school as well, or at Maple Valley High as well. Rayden felt he was a disappointment to his parents. He was the type of kid who had all kinds of potential, but wasted it because of past experiences. Rayden was smart, not just your average smart, but that freakishly smart that could shock you one at an instance. Rachel knew this about Rayden, and that is why she was such a good friend. She supported and believed in him no matter what the situation. Rayden found his true meaning of life one night at a high school football game. Rayden was supposed to meet up with Rachel and Jessica. Jessica was another outcast at Maple Valley High, but she hung around Rachel. And she, of course, had her brothers and sisters. But that will be later on that we'll discuss that. As Rayden walked into the football stadium, he suddenly heard thousands of voices running through his head. The voices were a blur to him. He could not understand any of them. It was just one thing, one after another. a big blur of noise in his head. He heard one person's thoughts, and then another, and then another. It occurred to him that he could hear people's thoughts. What the heck was going on? He had to leave. He had to get out of there because the voices in his head were driving him crazy. Rayden left the game and wandered to a clearing in a nearby woods where where the voices in his head died down. And you can see in the background, there's an outline of woods back there, and that is where he took off to in order to clear his head. The voices were a blur to him. He could not understand any of them. It was just one blur of noise. But when he was in that clearing in the woods, the voices started to die down. Rayden would occasionally go to these woods to think and be alone, so he knew them well. Rayden had no clue what to do. He already was a loner, except for Rachel. He really had no one to talk to about this incident. No one he could trust or believe him except Rachel. Rayden thought maybe it was just a fluke, a freakish accident. That was a one-time thing. He was exhausted from the voices in his head. So he dropped to his knees in the woods and finally rolled over to his back, staring up at the stars, and his mind began to wander. His thoughts were occupied about the time in his life when he had changed. Through all his life, Rayden had tried to please everyone, mainly his father. In the past, he had done well in school and was very smart. Rayden had had past experience in sports, especially his mixed martial arts. He participated in a national tournament his freshman year in high school in Dallas, Texas. He was favored to win his light heavyweight division. This was the point in his life that stuck out the most. All the hard work, all the training, and what happened was he came up short of a national title. And this would have given him a shot to move up to the next level. He would have trained with the best and been molded to fight professionally. Most of all, he felt he let his dad down, and he did not want to go through that again. His father was the one who pushed him to train harder. His father was the one who pushed him past his limits so that he could become better. His father did this with everything. Rayden did, from Little League baseball to his fighting career to his academics. Because Rayden felt like he had let everyone down, his life began slipping after his freshman year. He figured if there were no expectations for him, then how could he disappoint anyone ever again? Then his dad left suddenly without any contact, and things began to really slip. Since his dad left, he had not seen or heard from him, and this was one thing Rayden did not understand. Even though his life was different now, Rayden still is in good shape because of his continuous lifting weights and training on his own. That is how he dealt with life. But he was to never compete in any sports again. As a senior, he was 6'3", 221 pounds. With his size and the fact that the people knew about his fighting background, he was not messed with and pretty much left alone. Oh, except for Rachel. Sometimes a girl named Jessica would hang around because she was friends with Rachel. That's how Rayden liked it, just hanging with Rachel. The only problem was that he downplayed his life so that there were no expectations. Even though he was smart, he usually ended up with B's and C's. And even though he had a past of athleticism, he didn't play any sports. It was that mindset that if there were no expectations, then there were no disappointments. Now Rayden's mind was focused back to the surroundings around him, the trees, the insects, and the darkness around him. The voices in his head were gone. He was exhausted from trying to figure out what the hell was going on. He slowly began to raise his body off the ground and began walking back toward the school. It was during this walk that Rayden realized things were going to have to change, and he made up his mind that they would. There was one voice that stuck out during that brief, chaotic moment in the football field, or at the football game. He did not know who it was, but the words, "kill them," stuck out in his mind. Who was this person or people going to kill, and why? Rayden thought to himself, what can I do about it? Or was there nothing he could do? First off, he had to figure out what was going on with him. And then he could proceed with figuring out other things, like who was planning on killing who. When Rayden got back to the school, the game had ended, so most of the people were gone, and the voices in his head were not that bad. He could handle it. He saw Rachel and shouted for her to wait up. It was weird. For the first time, he could hear her thoughts and understood what she was thinking. Wow. Rayden was shocked and speechless when he got to her because she was thinking about how good he looked and how she wished they were together. Rayden freaked out a little and told her he was sorry he missed the game and would explain why later. He had a freaky night and he just wanted to say bye and make sure she was okay, but he had to get home. Plus, he made sure Rachel had to have a ride, in which she did. She was riding home with Jessica. They talked for a few minutes and said goodbye. Then Rachel jumped into Jessica's car and they were off. They were probably going to hang out somewhere and he wanted to go with them, but he was so freaked out from the night, he had decided he just better go home. Rayden had a sweet ride. He had a black 2-door 1969 Mustang Fastback with a 6-cylinder engine. It was a little raggedy, but he fixed it up to make it look good. He jumped in his car and headed home. Rayden did not live too far from the school, so the drive was not that long. Rayden pulled into his driveway and shuts down what he called the beast. He headed toward his house with the silence in his head for now. He understood that if he were to go out into public or to school on Monday, he was going to have to figure out or learn to suppress the thoughts and voices that were coming in his head and control this curse or gift. He did not know which it was yet. Rayden headed upstairs and past his mother, who had fallen asleep on the couch. Rayden, exhausted, plopped on his bed and lay there wondering what was going to be his next step. But with the voices gone in his head and finally some peace and silence, he decided to sleep and deal with this in the morning. While asleep, he had a dream that he was with his dad again, but they were running from what Rayden did not know. He could not make out anything in the dream except it was he and his dad. Then suddenly he awoke, as if he felt his dad's presence in the room. Rayden sat up and his eyes began to focus in on his dark room. He looked for his dad because it felt so real, but his father was not there, or at least Rayden did not see him. He laid back down and fell back to sleep. Several hours later, Rayden tossed and turned a little in his bed. He could feel the morning light around him and decided to get up. It was a Saturday morning in September, and just 2 days after his 18th birthday, which he celebrated last Thursday night by watching a couple of movies downstairs with Rachel. He got the usual for his birthday, just some money from his mom. It was the easiest way for her to get Rayden what he wanted, and he understood that. The usual morning rituals took place. He brushed his teeth, combed his hair, and got dressed. He decided that he would go to a few public places and see if he could somehow control this new ability of his. He was thinking, the library, that might be a good spot, and maybe he could conjure up some information while he was there. What he would look for, he had no idea. But the library had books, computers with the internet, and old articles he could possibly look at and find something. Keys, where are my keys? Ah, there they are. The keys were over on the other side of his bed, and he went to reach for the keys. Like a bullet shot out of a gun, the keys moved from the nightstand into the palm of his hand. Rayden was freaked out, but at the same time, he was ecstatic. He had just moved the keys without even touching them. He thought about getting his keys, and they just came right to him. He had to see if this was for real, or if this was his mind playing tricks. He looked over at his pillow and concentrated as he reached out to it, and from across the room. Sure enough, it came flying at him, and he caught it. Whoosh! He thought to himself, how in the hell is this possible? He had not been bitten by a spider, nor near any nuclear radiation or waste. Thinking jokingly to himself, of course, how could this be true? He could make objects come to him by reaching out to them. Rayden was smart, so he also wanted to see if he could move an object not just to him, but to where he wanted it to go. Rayden had a pen on his desk, and he thought that it would be a good idea or test to see if he could make the pen write. He concentrated on the pen, and sure enough, the pen rose into writing position. He moved the pen across the desk. He then lost concentration from a yell from downstairs. It was his mother yelling, "Rayden, I made some eggs. Do you want some?" Rayden shouted back, "Yeah, I'll be down in a minute." He looked over at his desk, and there it was, a long ink streak on the desk from the pen. Rayden was excited to get the day started, but first he was going to have some breakfast. He ran downstairs, grabbed some toast, and shoved it in his mouth. He started to dig into the eggs when his mother asked if things were going okay. He said yes, knowing that was a lie, wanting to know why she asked. His mother went on to say that she was a mom and it was her job to worry about him. Rayden just plainly said that he was okay. He finished his eggs, gave his mom a kiss on the forehead, and said not to worry, and out the door he went. He was so concerned about the day ahead of him that the lack of focus on his mother made him not able to concentrate on his mother's thoughts. He was in such a hurry to get going that he did not realize that he had not heard his mother's thoughts until he got into his car and realized that there was no thoughts from her head. And then he started to drive off. It was at this point that he realized he could control the reading of thoughts as long as he was focused on something besides the people. He was around the thought reading, and it could be controlled. So there's the first episode. All right, we understand that he has now realized he has some type of gift. All right, and some of the things that I wanted to reiterate on was the mother's relationship. I mean, it was a good one. It's just that they didn't sit down and have long talks together, but she was involved with him, and she knew him and what he liked, and that he liked to be left alone. What I meant by outcast, all right, it's just that he was different. He really didn't fit into any group that was there. And basically he just wanted one close friend, and that was Rachel. In reading the thoughts, voices were different. They were not like his, so he knew that it wasn't his internal thoughts when he was hearing the voices. He knew that they were other people's voices. Training in a combat sport. I mean, this is pretty difficult. If you've never done it, you are just punishing your body 24/7 when you're practicing. All right, those hours that you're in the room, wrestling, boxing, jiu-jitsu, whatever you're doing, you're putting some strain on your body, and you're testing yourself against another person. And unlike any other sport, it's you one-on-one. When you go out on the mat to wrestle and you face that other person across the mat, it's pretty brave, all right? So it takes a lot. And when he lost the championship, it hurt because he knew how much work he put into it, all right? No exceptions and no disappointments. Basically, if he didn't achieve, and he continually didn't achieve, that wouldn't be expected of him. But he did get B's and C's. I mean, he didn't do bad. He could have been a straight A student. Why the library and not do the research at home? He wanted to test out his control of the voices in his head, and he knew that there would probably be some people in the library. And at home, he just had his mother, and he didn't want to act all goofy around her. So he decided to go to the library. Plus, he was going to research there. Well, I hope you enjoyed the first episode. If you did, I'm going to be putting my episodes on my YouTube channel, on the playlist of my book, Empty. I have a couple other playlists on there as well. I'll try and do this on Facebook and YouTube next time. But I will put those videos, I will definitely upload on YouTube and TikTok. So they will be there, it just won't be live. Alright, I'll try and look at the comments if there were any, and answer any questions that you might have had. Alright, I appreciate you listening if you did. And see you next Thursday.